Today on Carolina Week, Chapel Hill has a new woman in power in the wake of rising crime rates and a Ponzi scheme unearthed right in our backyard.
And with a new TikTok ban on state devices, a fresh session of the North Carolina General Assembly, and gubernatorial race announcements, we'll cover the need-to-know topics in state politics.
All of this and more next on Carolina Week.
From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Welcome back to Carolina Week for the spring 2023 semester. I'm Kelly Kendall.
And I'm Stephen Schlink. Earlier this month, Chapel Hill's first female police chief took the reins of a town in turbulence. Celisa LeHue has been with Chapel Hill PD for 19 years. Colleagues have described LeHue to local media outlets as, quote, the perfect pick. She previously served as assistant chief and has worked on initiatives to improve community safety. We asked her what she's most looking forward to in her new role.
I really felt that I've made an impact within the department and the community, and I look forward to continued success as chief.
Join us next week for more from LeHue on what she plans to do to increase public safety amid a recent spike in crime.
And January is National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. That's why I spoke to experts to debunk human trafficking myths and find out ways to stop it.
Force, fraud, and coercion. These are all words commonly associated with human trafficking. You might not hear about it every day, but according to state leaders, it's one of North Carolina's most pressing issues, and the numbers show why.
One metric that's commonly used is calls into the National Human Trafficking Hotline, the tip line, and North Carolina consistently ranks in the top 10.
Brian Stephanie is the human trafficking coordinator for the Eastern District U.S. Attorney's Office. He said human trafficking falls into two main categories: sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Both happen in North Carolina.
It really can't occur anywhere. But we do see higher incidence in the major metropolitan areas.
That includes Raleigh and other areas of the Triangle. Dean Duncan is the main researcher for Project No Rest, aiming to end child trafficking. He said it happens most often in unexpected places.
The individual is in a situation, in a place where they feel safe.
That place might not be physical either. Stephanie said social media has been a new recruiting tool for exploiters.
And obviously, as we know, the college age demographic is very attuned to social media.
With online exploitation on the rise, trafficking can be hard to spot. But Stephanie says there are some key things college-age people can do.
Being careful with your online presence, that's number one, I think. I think it's also important to look out for each other.
If you or somebody you know has fallen victim to human trafficking, the National Human Trafficking Hotline can be reached at 1-888-373-7888.
A former Chapel Hill transportation engineer was arrested in connection to a Ponzi scheme where he defrauded several members of his own Indian American community. 56-year-old Kamar Nepali is facing 23 counts of felony wire fraud and money laundering. In a press release, an FBI agent leading the investigation said, quote, Nepali abused the trust and confidence placed in him by fellow Indian American community members. 12 victims claimed he collected funds from them in exchange for insider information on real estate developments in Orange County. He would then use that money to pay back earlier investors. Nepali faces up to 20 years in prison per count and other fines.
After a months-long battle, housekeepers at UNC are seeing a little extra money in their paycheck, but not nearly as much as they asked for. In October, UNC housekeepers held a rally demanding UNC administrators give them a $5 hourly wage increase and free parking. In December, the university approved a 19-cent an hour raise for housekeepers, falling short of the $5 the petition asked for. That's why these housekeepers have continued their push for higher wages.
They make it feel like it's nobody, and the ones that's sitting in the office that making the big bucks, they the one deserve the money, not us. That's what make me feel. The reason why we're not giving up, you're not putting more work on us.
When asked to comment, the university responded with the following statement. University leadership recently collaborated with the UNC System Office to increase the pay range for more than 400 employees, which went into effect last month. We continue to work with the system to address these issues.
The UNC College of Arts and Sciences launched its first strategic plan for diversity, equity, and inclusion this month, known as the Action Steps for Equity. Kara Slocum is the Senior Associate Dean for DEI. She says this is an effort to strengthen and advance diversity, equity, and inclusion among faculty and staff in the college. Under her leadership, the strategic plan has 4 priorities over the next 3 years: enhancing the school's climate, gaining a deeper understanding of pay equity, increasing diversity through recruitment and retention, and addressing areas of repair, particularly those related to the school's past.
Who is among us and how diverse are we? There are questions about inclusion and access. Who feels like they are a part of this community and welcome in this community and supported by this community? Who feels like they are seen? Those are important kinds of questions for this work.
Arts and Sciences will provide progress on the plan annually on its website.
The university is also working on some physical changes. The wooden arbor at the Coker Arboretum is currently undergoing renovation designed to make it more accessible for community members. The arbor's black locust timbers, last replaced 25 years ago, have been deteriorating, and its walkway, which ends in a flight of stairs, has sparked accessibility concerns. The school hopes to turn the walkway into a sloping path and remove the stairs. The renovation is slated for completion this coming fall. In the meantime, members of the community can use the existing walkway that has been open for the spring and summer. And next semester, Davis Library will also be getting a refreshing update, a new cafe on the first floor. Students will be able to get their coffee fix at Pret a Manger, an England-based sandwich shop chain. Construction is happening over the summer.
Maintenance issues are plaguing residents in Granville Towers student housing. Broken elevators and HVAC units, plumbing issues, rusting stairwell handrails, and mold, just to name a few. Many residents are frustrated even after supposed repairs.
I mean, yeah, not really. At least, they kind of got fixed. But yeah, it took way longer than it should have.
But fix is a pretty loose term. It still breaks down quite often. It takes a very long time. I've heard a lot of stories about people like dropping, the elevator shaking. Elevators doesn't work every now and again. So it still has not been too great.
If you're looking for something to do tonight, there are several events happening on campus. The Polish ambassador to the United States will be giving a talk discussing the country's role in NATO and the ongoing war in Ukraine. The event is at the Nelson Mandela Auditorium in the FedEx Global Studies Center starting at 5:30.
Also tonight at 7:30, Shakespeare is taking the stage in Chapel Hill. It's opening night for Playmakers' Hamlet. Tickets are $20 and can be purchased online.
Well, Kelly, that sounds really interesting. I might have to go check that play out myself.
Really? I did not peg you for a theater fan.
Hey, don't be so quick to judge. Well, coming up, a TikTok takedown by Governor Cooper.
And how vaping could land you in an understaffed hospital. After this.
Stay tuned.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff.
That's what white people think.
You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal.
Welcome back to Carolina Week, where we've got your debrief on state and local news.
North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper signed an executive order banning TikTok on state-owned devices. According to the order, state agency employees are prohibited from downloading and using the app on government-issued devices. North Carolina joins 19 other states that have implemented similar TikTok bans. Here's what some students have to say about the executive order and whether they have concerns over the app. Take a listen.
I think it's completely warranted to have a TikTok ban on government devices. Why do we have taxpayer money going to devices that employees are watching TikTok on? It's not fair.
I feel like they could also put some sort of other barriers in place to protect that information and other forms of security measures instead of just an overall ban.
It's such a big platform. Your information is all out there. The algorithm is so sophisticated. I could see why someone would be very cautious to use it, especially in an important matter.
Maybe on the state level, maybe it's not as big of a deal, but I can still see the reason for having it.
ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, agreed to cooperate with U.S. regulators to address security concerns with the app. We'll be following this story as it develops.
Vice President Kamala Harris will be just down the road in Durham Monday. Harris will be addressing the Biden administration's investments in small businesses. Her trip comes on the heels of recent reports hailing North Carolina as a top state for business growth. Governor Roy Cooper is expected to join her along with Durham elected officials. This will be her third visit to Durham in the past year. Over in Raleigh, the North Carolina General Assembly kicked off a new legislative session earlier this month. While legislators say this session will be mostly focused on writing the state budget, the governor's veto looms large for Democrats and has already generated some controversy. Representative Allison Boynsey, who represents Chapel Hill and Carrboro, says it's important to hold the governor's veto, especially on some controversial issues.
We need to make sure we do everything we can to protect the governor's veto. We expect that there will be legislation proposed further restricting abortion access, legislation proposed that targets LGBTQ community.
The House adopted a temporary rule that would allow the Speaker of the House to call a veto override vote at any time. Representative John Hardister, the House Republican whip, says that this rule is meant to streamline veto overrides and won't change the current.
And pretty often there would be 2, 3, 4 bills on the calendar for veto overrides every single calendar that came out, which meant that the Speaker had to tell the clerk of the House, put that on the calendar, and it was just on there day after day, which meant, what does that mean? Well, that means the Speaker can bring up a veto override at any moment.
While Hardister says that the Speaker of the House will honor any promise made to Democrats to not hold a veto vote, Boynsey thinks differently. The General Assembly is meeting again today to continue their discussions on issues like the budget, abortion, and Medicaid expansion.
And looking ahead to election season, Democrat Josh Stein announced that he will be running for governor in 2024. Stein, who has served as state attorney general since 2016, has long been projected by pundits to be the Democrat replacement for Governor Roy Cooper. Cooper is ineligible to run in 2024 due to term limits. In his announcement video, Stein took aim at Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, the likely Republican candidate.
In 2018, the U.S. Surgeon General declared vaping an epidemic. Now, roughly 1 in 10 young adults report using e-cigarette products. Once an alternative to smoking, scientists are discovering that it can be linked to serious lung conditions, just like smoking tobacco. One particular illness UNC researchers are pinpointing is EVALI, which primarily affects younger people. Respiratory symptoms include cough, shortness of breath, and chest pain. Doctors say these symptoms start to develop days or weeks after using a new product. Here's UNC Assistant Professor of Pediatrics, Megan Rabuli.
It was more than likely a new addition of this vitamin E acetate to a lot of the products that were on the market that induced EVALI in a lot of patients.
While cases have declined, the e-cigarette industry remains unregulated.
And UNC hospitals might not have the capacity to handle an influx of patients. A survey from the North Carolina Nurses Association shows that about 37% of respondents say they have a severe shortage of nurses. A little over 41% say they have a moderate shortage. A new program between UNC Chapel Hill and Pembroke to encourage diversity in healthcare could streamline workers to UNC hospitals. You can read more about that program on our website.
That's awesome, Kelly. Thanks for telling us about that. And here to tell us about these gray skies, it's time to look at weather.
Absolutely. If there's one thing there's not a shortage of, it is rain here in Chapel Hill. Meteorologist Corey Kowitz is here with us to tell us more about that wet front.
Right now, though, we had a little appetizer of rain earlier today, but we see the main event coming in right now, right on our doorstep here. coming in is the main event of rain in terms of the widespread nature of it, how heavy it's going to be, and how long it's going to last. If we take a look at the future radar and we track it out hour by hour for you, you can see that it's going to continue for the next several hours and could get intense as well. You see those yellows and those reds creeping in here, indicating maybe a rumble of thunder and some heavier pockets of rain, but drying out and clearing out. But the rain's going to remain for a while. And you get the class-by-class forecast, you can see it reflected in that. 52 around noon is when the heavy rain is going to start to get introduced into the region. By midday, that we see those temperatures get into the high 50s, maybe reaching 60. If there's any positive for today, it is going to be mild and warm, but it is going to be rainy. Heavy rain is going to be around 3 o'clock, 58, and remaining at 58, 6 o'clock. We see those rain start to taper off in terms of its intensity. But if we zoom out here and look at the structure of this storm here, you can see we're in the warm and moist sector that is fueling the rain we're seeing here and the warm temperatures. But right on our doorstep here, you can see that cold front lining the Appalachian Mountains to our west, and it's going to be moving off to the east, bringing with it cool and cold and dry temperatures here. You can see it reflected here in our 5-day forecast. For today, you could see rainy and windy. You could get windy here with the rain bands coming in and that cold front coming through, but we see it cooling down and drying out. Friday being our coolest day of the week in the mid-40s, topping out in the mid-40s, high 40s. Saturday, we see it warm up and remaining dry. And you see the cloud cover increase on Sunday, foreshadowing a possible chance of rain early next week. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Corey. I tell you, I'm really looking forward to that warm-up, small as it may be, for this weekend.
Me too.
Well, after the break, we'll hear the latest in Tar Heel athletics.
We had an absolutely epic win over Syracuse last night, and you won't want to miss hearing that. Stay tuned.
And I can't let this happen to my kid. So if you want to talk to your kids, you have to get it trending.
No, you're doing it wrong.
Let's go.
Can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
Visit talkaboutVaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
There's so much excitement in sports as Tar Heels conquer the spring semester.
I'm sure excited. And here to give us a rundown on all things Carolina athletics, Sports Extra anchor Jasmine Baker has more.
Thanks, Kelly. It's been a big week for Carolina basketball star Armando Bacot. Not only was Bacot crowned UNC's career rebounding king, notching his 61st double-double, a career record, he was also crowned the ACC Player of the Week. Bacot had back-to-back games with 20-plus points and 16-plus rebounds against Boston College and NC State. Bacot's strong play led the Heels back into the win column after a loss to Virginia. Bacot and the rest of the basketball team traveled to Syracuse for an ACC matchup late last night against the Orange. The Tar Heels got off to a hot start offensively against Syracuse's iconic 2-3 zone defense. Good ball movement was key for the Heels, leading to threes like this one from Caleb Love. The Heels' quick start helped them race out to an early lead in the first half. The second half was a different story, however. Syracuse's heavy ball pressure threw the Heels off their offensive rhythm. After Syracuse took a late lead, Pete Nance had the chance to tie the game with 2 free throws. He missed the second, but off the miss, the ball finds Nance for a clutch layup to put the Heels up by 1. The Heels defense closed out the game and gave UNC the 72-68 conference victory. The women's team has been dominating lately, with 2 huge wins at Carmichael last week. The number 15 Heels will play at Pittsburgh tomorrow evening. The Panthers are only 7-12, but any team is dangerous on its home court. The Heels have improved to 14-5 and are looking to extend their winning streak, behind the driving forces of Deja Kelly and U.S. Basketball Writers Association National Player of the Week, Alyssa Utsby. The UNC gymnastics team was back in Carmichael Arena Monday as the Heels hosted UW Stout and Yale. First-year kayak Forbes had quite a night, scoring the meet-high 9.825 with her Yurcheko 1.5 on vault. Forbes continued to dominate, dancing her way to a career-high 9.875 on floor. First-year Gwen Fink scored a career-high on bars with 9.875 and a career-high on beam, earning 9.85. Sophomore Julia Noer closed out her all-around win with her rocking floor routine, earning a total score of 39.175. The Tar Heels beat the Blue Devils. Yes, there's more than just one Blue Devils. And the Bulldogs with an impressive final score of 196.25. ACC Weekly Awards have found their way to an abundance of Tar Heels this week, including the women's tennis team. Junior Fiona Crowley claims the ACC Player of the Week after continuing her dominance in dual matches and in doubles play. First-year Reese Brentmeyer was named the ACC Freshman of the Week. Both she and Crowley have yet to lose a set this season. Former UNC tennis star Rinky Hijikata continues to make his mark as a professional. Hijikata and fellow Australian Jason Kubler are on to the semifinal round of the doubles at the Australian Open. They beat the top-seeded duos in the quarters, 6-3 and 6-1. The Aussies will play the 8 seeds on Saturday, and if they win, it's on to the doubles final in the Grand Slam event. UNC field hockey star Erin Matson has yet another trophy to add to her collection. For the third time, Matson was just named the winner of the Honda Sports Award for field hockey, which recognizes the top female athlete that season. Matson led North Carolina to an undefeated campaign in 2022 that resulted in her 4th national championship. She becomes the second player to win the award 3 times, joining a familiar face in Karen Shelton, who accomplished the feat at Westchester University. Be sure to watch Sports Extra on Friday to stay up to date with all things Carolina athletics. Stay tuned, we'll be back.
There are a lot of words I would use to describe my daughter. Kind, strong, hilarious. When I think about how much she's experienced in her life, we can't help but be inspired by her every day. So really, we're the lucky ones. Learn more at adoptuskids.org.
The inspiring story of a Ukrainian refugee in Charlotte.
Reporter Julia Roth shares the first part of this touching saga.
Rachel Kivlin is a UNC sophomore. Her story is her family's story, and it begins with their escape from the war-torn country.
Bomb, poof, outside. My kids sleep, my husband sleep, my cat sleep, and because I wake up early, I hear it, and I go to my husband and said, Жень, Женя, это оно, как это сказать? Это оно, это моя была фраза. Voice started.
This is it.
This is it. Voice started.
Russia attacked Kyiv on the morning of February 24th, 2022. That morning defined new identities for many Ukrainians such as Victoria, a mother, a manager at the tech company Vodafone, and now the head of a group of people in a makeshift bomb shelter in the basement of her apartment building.
We bring here something like water, food.
And some furniture like mattresses and chairs.
Something for survive.
Like when they were cleaning their nose, like the brown stuff was coming out because they had to breathe through it. I mean, you can imagine there's no ventilation system there.
And it was winter. It was really cold. And they sleep in the outfit.
So.
I checked passport all people who come in our shelter. Without when, and because I'm afraid. And I will be ready.
Yes. Alex, a Ukrainian named Sasha, 14 years old, a student, a son, now a guard at the door of a Ukrainian bomb shelter.
Near our main door and check that.
Alex was like safeguard near the door.
He couldn't sleep for 2 weeks.
Marie, 9 years old, a daughter and cat lover, now a passionate critic of the authoritarian leader responsible for the invasion of her home country.
What happened with Ukraine? I think who is started the war? Everyone knows this is a Putin. Or is Putin? Sorry. I'm only 9 years old, but what?
After weeks in the shelter, Victoria decided her family must seek new identities yet again in America.
Majority of the people, they fled to Europe. However, they did not do that. They decided to go to United States.
Потому что у нас тут близкие люди. Потому что...
Yep, we have close relatives here. She realized that there was no way out. It wasn't going to stop, the score of the war. This was going to be a prolonged one. So she knew that it was a decision that needed to be made.
In part 2 of our series, we'll show you how Rachel's family members are getting used to their new lives in Charlotte, while still helping others who are unable to leave Ukraine.
Wow, Stephen, it must be heartbreaking to see your country fallen into war, but that family is doing amazing things to help others.
Absolutely. I think it just goes to show that tragedy can sometimes bring out the best in people.
Absolutely. And we'll be hearing more from that inspiring story in a couple weeks. Thank you so much for tuning in to our first show of Carolina Week for this spring 2023 semester.
We'll see you right back here next time.